GSTR-6, it contains the details of the taxpayers. So GSTR-9, it contains the details of income and expenditure of a particular taxpayer. After that will be separated according to, that will be regrouped according to the monthly returns filed by the taxpayers. Any supplier who registered under composition scheme is supposed to file GSTR-9A. Hello everyone, I am Arun Kumar, lecturer in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Dear students, welcome to this new session on unit number 5, that is GST returns. So in the previous session, we were discussing about what is the meaning of GST returns, and also we got to know the different types of GST returns what we have under GST purview. So in this session, we will be knowing about the types of GSTR returns. So in last session, we got to know about GSTR-1, GSTR-2A, 2B, 3B, GSTR-4, GSTR-5. So in this semester, we will be continuing to know what and all different types of GSTR forms we have under GST purview. So moving on, GSTR-6. So in the previous session, we discussed from GSTR-1 to GSTR-5. So here we will be discussing from GSTR-6. So why this GSTR-6 form will be used? So GSTR-6, it is a monthly return for IS days. So what is this IS days? IS day is nothing but input service distributor. So it is a monthly return for input service distributors. This return contains the details of the taxpayers' basic information. Yes, GSTR-6, it contains the details of the taxpayers. So what and all the details it contains? All the basic information. Yes, what is the name of the taxpayer and the address of the taxpayer, and also the GST-IN number of the taxpayer. Next, period to which the return pertains, invoice level supply details from the GSTR-1 of counterparties, invoice details including the GST-IN of the taxpayer, receiving the credit separate IST ledger containing the opening ITC balance for the period, credit for ITC services received, debit for ITC reversed or distributed, and closing balance. Yes, so GSTR-6 is fully related to input service distributor, and this input service distributor is going to file the GSTR-6 on monthly basis, and the information of the particular taxpayer will be mentioned in GSTR-6, like the name, GST-IN number, address of the taxpayers. And you can also get to know about the opening balance of input tax credit what you have in your account, and the credit for ITC service received and debit for ITC reversed. If you are crediting the ITC input tax credit, then that information you can see, and if you are reversing the ITC, that information will also be available with respect to GSTR-6. So moving on to know about GSTR-7. So what's all about GSTR-7? So monthly return for TDS transactions. Yes, what is TDS? TDS is nothing but tax deducted at source. So if you are earning any income, like for example casual incomes, so winning from lottery, what will happen? If you are going to win a lottery worth rupees 1 lakh, first they deduct the tax amount, then they pay you the remaining balance. Now usually we collect 30% tax. So in 1 lakh, they deduct 30,000 and pay 70,000 rupees to the winner of the lottery. That is called TDS, that is tax deducted at source. Monthly return for TDS transaction. This return contains the taxpayer's basic information. Yes, GSTR-7 is also contains the basic information of taxpayer. So who is the person who is paying the tax to the government? What is his name? And what is the address of the taxpayer? What is the GST-IN of the taxpayer? So every basic information will be mentioned in this form. Which the basic information. Next, period to which the return pertains, supplier's GSTIN, invoices against which the tax has been deducted and categorized under the major tax heads CGST, SGST and IGST, and details of any other payments such as interest and penalties. Yes, this particular form GSTR-7, it is all about TDS. If any TDS deducted by the person who sells the product, by the supplier, then is supposed to file GSTR-7 on monthly basis, and it contains the details of the taxpayers and the period to which the return pertains, supplier's GSTIN. Yes, this particular GST-7 pertains the supplier GSTIN number, invoices against which the tax has been deducted. Yes, for what purpose they deducted the TDS, that invoice will be mentioned, and the type of tax imposed on TDS, whether they imposed CGST, SGST or IGST. So what kind of tax they imposed, or on what kind of tax they collected from the buyer, that information will also be mentioned under GSTR-7 form. Moving, GSTR-8. So GSTR-8 is all about monthly return for e-commerce operators. Yes, so for e-commerce operators and normal operators, business operators, slightly there will be a difference. E-commerce, they do the business through online. Okay, you can't meet your supplier. But offline business, if you go and purchase through a particular store, then you can meet the supplier and you can bargain for the price, and you can select the item whichever you want just by feeling the product. But if it comes to e-commerce operators, they are the online sellers where you can't meet the e-commerce operators, that is the sellers, and you can't touch and feel the products. Simply they'll showcase the products in their website. Just by looking at that, you have to purchase the product. So GSTR-8, monthly return for e-commerce operators. It contains the taxpayers' basic information. Yes, as usual, this GSTR-8 refers to e-commerce operators, and this form GSTR-8 form, it contains the basic information of the taxpayers and the period to which the return pertains, details of supplies made to customers through the e-commerce portal by both registered taxable person and unregistered persons, customers' basic information whether or not they are registered taxpayers, the amount of tax collected at source, tax payable and tax paid. Yes, GSTR-8, it is a monthly return for e-commerce operators, and this GSTR-8 form, it contains the basic details of the customers. So who purchased the product, whether the customer is a registered person or unregistered person, they have to mention for whom they are selling the product and from whom they collect the TDS, and what is the tax payable and what is the tax paid. So what is the tax payable and what is the tax paid by the supplier. So every information should be mentioned in GSTR-8. So GSTR-8 will be claimed by the e-commerce operators, and it contains all the basic details of the taxpayer and what item they are selling, for whom they are selling, on what basis they charged TDS, and also what is the tax payable and what is the tax paid by the taxpayer. So this much of information will be given or available under GSTR-8 form. Next, moving on to GSTR-9. So why we use this GSTR-9? What is the purpose? So annual consolidated tax return. Yes, GSTR-9 is a annual consolidated tax return. It contains the taxpayer's income and expenditure in detail. These are then regrouped according to the monthly returns filed by the taxpayer. So GSTR-9, it contains the details of income and expenditure of a particular taxpayer. After that, that will be separated according to, that will be regrouped according to the monthly returns filed by the taxpayers. Yes, it is a annual consolidated tax return. So what is the tax paid? What is the tax payable? Okay, what is the tax paid on inputs? What is the tax payable on outward outward supplies. Every information will be mentioned in this particular form, that is GSTR 9. After knowing the income and expenditure, then that items will be regrouped according to the monthly returns filed by the taxpayers. So according to the monthly returns filed by the taxpayers, the transactions will be regrouped accordingly, whether it is applicable for GSTR 1, GSTR 2B, GSTR 2A. So according to that, they will be regrouped. Next, moving on, GSTR 9A. So annual composition return form that has to be filed by every taxpayer who is enrolled in the composition scheme. Yes, GSTR 9A is applicable to composite supplier. Any person who registered under composition scheme, any supplier who registered under composition scheme is supposed to file GSTR 9A. So annual composition return form that has to be filed by every taxpayer who is enrolled in the composition scheme. Yes, if any person is enrolled under composition scheme, it is very much important to file this GSTR 9A annually. So composite supplier is supposed to be file GSTR 9A, not any other suppliers. Next, GSTR 9B. Annual return form that has to be filed by e-commerce operator who collect tax at the source. Yes, GSTR 9B is applicable to e-commerce operators. If they are deducting the tax, okay, if they are collecting the tax at source, then they are supposed to file annual return form with the GST authority. So here GSTR 9A is applicable to composition scheme business entities, and GSTR 9B is applicable to e-commerce operators who collect the tax at source. Next, GSTR 9C. Audit form that needs to be filed by every taxpayer who is liable to get their annual reports audited when their aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 2 crores in the financial year. Yes, if any business entity's total turnover, exceeds rupees 2 crore, then those kind of business entities or those kind of taxpayers are supposed to audit their transactions. They are supposed to audit their transaction. And GSTR 9C is all about the audit form that needs to be filed by the every taxpayers who is liable to get their annual reports audited. Yes, we will be having all the details with us. Okay, what is the total purchase we made? What is the total sales we made? What is the total purchase return? What is the total sales return? Every information will be with us. And what is the tax paid on inputs and what is the tax payable on outputs? Every information is going to be with us. So what we are supposed to do, if our income is crossing rupees 2 lakh in the financial year, then we are supposed to audit. We are supposed to audit our financial reports and we are supposed to submit that financial report under GSTR 9C form. So GSTR 9 is, it's all about composition scheme. GSTR 9B, it's all about e-commerce operators who collect the tax at the source. And GSTR 9C is all about auditing of a particular financial report for the particular year if the total transaction crosses 2 crores in the financial year. Next, GSTR 10. Final GST return before cancelling GST registration. This final return is to be filed when terminating business activities permanently or cancelling GST registration. It will contain the details of all supplies, liabilities, tax collected and tax payable. Yes, what we will do, we are going to register under the GST purview. What we will do, we are going to register under the GST purview and we continue our business for next 2 or 3 years. So after 3 years, what will happen? That business owner is not possible to run the business due to his financial constraint or due to his some issues. So what that person is supposed to do before closing his business, before cancelling the registration with the GST authority, he is supposed to file GSTR 10 form. So why he is supposed to file GSTR 10 form? Because to give the details about the supplies, liabilities, collected tax and tax payable. Yes, what is the total amount of supply made by that business entity? What is the total input tax paid by that particular business entity? How much is the tax collected by the business entity? So every information should be submitted to the GST authority. So after verifying all the documents, if the authority is satisfied with the documents provided by the business entity, then they cancel the GST registration and the business entity, he can close down his business. In case sometimes we will be running the business and we are not earning more than 2 crore, okay, we are not earning more than 40 lakhs, for example. So if you are not earning more than 40 lakhs every year, then you need not to register. Earlier you used to earn 2 crores, 4 crores, 5 crores due to high sales. But from past 2 years, you are earning only 40 lakhs. So now also you can cancel your registration because threshold limit, you are not crossing the threshold limit. So at that time also, you are supposed to submit GSTR-10. So it contains all the details of supplies, liabilities, tax collected and tax payable by the registered person. If the authority is going to satisfy with the details provided by the taxpayer, then they are going to cancel the GST registration. GSTR-11. So what it all about? So variable tax return for taxpayers with UIN. It contains the details of purchase made by foreign embassies and diplomatic missions for self-consumption during a particular month. Yes, it is not compulsory. GSTR-11 need not to be filed compulsorily. It is a variable tax return. That means if the business is happening for 1 month, only for that 1 month's transaction, you are supposed to file GSTR-11. If the business is happening for 3 months, then you are supposed to submit the GSTR-11 for 3 months. So here it is a variable tax return for taxpayers with unique identification number, and it contains the details of purchase made by foreign embassies and diplomatic missions. So here GSTR-11, it is a variable tax return and it contains the details of foreign embassies purchase and diplomatic missions purchase, and what is the total purchase for self-consumption during a particular month. Yes, if they are purchasing for a particular month, then what is the total purchase made by that particular foreign embassies or by diplomatic missions. So GSTR-11 is all about, it's a variable return, and the taxpayer with unique identification number is supposed to furnish the details with respect to GSTR-11. So this is all about different types of GSTR forms what we have under GST purview. So I hope all of you understood the topic. We will meet in the upcoming sessions. Until then, thank you all.